and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Yep, the heart of the city. And right behind me is the State House building, or the State Capitol, whatever you want to call it. Here they call it the State House. But I am, this is part of the Historic National Road, and there's a marker next to me, and I'll show you a few attractions. Obviously, I mean, I'm going to make this into a short episode because, you know, there's little to so much ground to cover in one episode based on the National Road, but I'll do what I can to make this one an entertaining one. And obviously in a big city like this, there are a number of things to do and see. There's a zoo, there's an art museum, there's lots of cool restaurants and sights to see all over Indianapolis, having been to a few already today. But I will show you the marker first, and then we're gonna head on out. Here we go. All right. Now, I'm looking at this marker, and it's the same text as one of the other ones in Terre Haute. It would be kind of pointless for me to read over it, but since I'm here anyway, it talks about the importance of the Historic National Road, and it did succeed in going through at least 3 state capitals, including this one. And this Capitol building was not always here, but it says here, the Historic National Road is a true American icon, conceived by George Washington, authorized by Thomas Jefferson, and chartered by Abraham Lincoln. In 1806, construction of the National Road was approved by the U.S. Congress to open the western interior of a young nation to commerce and settlement. It was America's first federally funded interstate highway, extending from Cumberland, Maryland to Wheeling on the Ohio River. The road was so important that Congress authorized its extension from Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois in 1824 to link the capitals of the new states. That would be Vandalia, Columbus, and here, Indianapolis. But Vandalia was, the capital was moved to Springfield later on. But the road reached Indiana in 1827. And down here it says, during its heyday in Indiana from 1830 to 1850, travelers followed the National Road. It provided a convenient route to markets both east and west. Blacksmith shops and taverns sprung up along the road to serve the diversity of travelers. Stagecoaches bringing letters, newspapers, and cash supported the booming economy and carried the correspondence of happy accomplishments, births, and deaths. The trip was very unpleasant. Well, often unpleasant, it says here. But if you were traveling in a horse and buggy, I can definitely picture, wagon axles deep in mud, clothes wet, and backs aching from the rough ride. Stagecoaches, carriages, and wagons vied for space alongside foot travelers, noisy cattle, hogs, and geese. As faster and more reliable transportation options became available with the expansion of the nation's rail and canal networks in the 1850s, road traffic decreased. Like many other roads, the National Road fell into a state of disrepair. Although it was no longer the Great Road West, the legacy of the road would not soon be forgotten. And there's a picture postcard of the National Road crossing the Whitewater River in Richmond, Indiana. And then Albert Gallatin, who was the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury under Jefferson, he said this in 1808, "Good roads and canals will shorten the distances, facilitate commercial and personal intercourse, and unite, by a still more intimate community of interest, the most remote corners of the United States." So the Indiana State House was completed in 1888 at a cost of just under $2 million. So for more than 115 years, the State House has served as the seat of Indiana's government. In 1916, the Daughters of the American Revolution presented a fountain and a marker memorializing the National Road. I want to see if I can find that. It's somewhere on the grounds. All right, so I'm in the south part of the State House, and it looks like a lot of police officers are gathered in front for a photo opportunity. I'm not going to bother them, but right here is a National Historic Civil Engineering landmark, the National Road. Cumberland, Maryland to Vandalia, Illinois, designated 1976, and this was accepted by Governor Otis R. Bowen, MD, October 12th, 1976. And then just right in the middle is a monument. I'm just going to go around if they'll let me. And then right there is a statue of George Washington. But here is the memorial. And again, this was put up by the Daughters of the American Revolution. The National Road, Cumberland, Maryland to Terre Haute, Indiana, 1806 to 1839. Oh yeah, this is very cool, except for the fact that somebody had yeah, right on it. That's not cool. And on the back it says Indiana Centennial 1816 and 1960 in memory of the brave men and women who toiled amid many dangers and laid out the foundations of the Commonwealth of Indiana. Erected by the Carolyn Scott Harrison chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. And then that right there is a statue of George Washington. Definitely sometime down the road I would love to do the Indiana State House in its own episode, but not today, unfortunately. And right in front of the Indiana State buildings, government buildings, are two markers that talk about Abraham Lincoln giving a speech, like right here. And it's facing the National Road. So I'm gonna go ahead and read you both of them. So let's see what it says. I hope this is the front. Lincoln to the citizens of Indiana. It is your business if the union of these states and the liberties of this people shall be lost. It is your business to rise up and preserve the union. From speech by President-elect Abraham Lincoln at intersection of Washington and Missouri streets, Indianapolis, February 11th, 1861. And it reads the same text on the back, but I'm sure this monument or marker right here will probably tell more. So, starting from the top here, February 11th, 1861, Abraham Lincoln, on his way to Washington to assume the presidency, in an address said, "I appeal to you to constantly bear in mind that not with politicians, not with presidents, not with office seekers, but with you is the question. Shall the Union and shall the liberties of this country be preserved to the latest generations?" Very powerful speech by Abraham Lincoln, who, if you watch my previous videos, you know he traveled the National Road growing up. And like I said, there's so much to do in this city. I mean, of course, this is like the heart of downtown. Those are like all the big hotels. That's the Marriott, the Westin. And I'm gonna check out that cool structure over there. I think that's the mall. All right, so right here, next to the Capitol, or the State House, is the Indiana Repertory Theater. And that right there is the Indianapolis Art Garden. I wanted to get closer to that. And if you think that's cool, try being underneath it. Wow. Huh. And then right over there is Circle Center Mall. It's pretty much spread out, but I think this is the north end of it, just next to the Indianapolis Arts Garden. Okay, now it's starting to feel like home. St. Louis Institution's Sugar Fire Barbecue is here in Indianapolis. I had no idea. Wow, so many cool architecture buildings. And there's another National Road kiosk just right over there. How about that? Let's make our way over there. All right, so this one talks about Indiana's main street. No doubt about that, but it's called Washington Street. You are standing on Washington Street, the route to the historic National Road in Indiana. In the early 19th century, this broad street had no sidewalks and was lined with log buildings and frame taverns that crowded near the newly constructed state capitol. By the turn of the 20th century, Indianapolis was a prosperous city. Ladies in fine hats browsed the shop windows while horse-drawn delivery wagons, clanging streetcars, and Indiana-built automobiles such as Studebaker and Duesenberg clattered over the brick pavement. I won't claim her, nor yes. Okay, I don't know why somebody decided to write on that. But down here, rapid growth. Long before the National Road reached Indiana, this area was densely wooded and homeland to the peoples of the Miami, Pinkashaw, and Way nations. Early Hoosier settlers lived along the commercially vibrant Ohio River close to Indiana's first capital at Corydon. In 1825, the capital was moved to Indianapolis in anticipation of the arrival of the National Road. Between 1820 and 1840, tens of thousands of people from the east settled along the Great Highway in Indiana. During these 2 decades, the population of the state exploded from 147,178 to 685,866, dramatically shifting the center of commerce from the Ohio River to the new road. Wow. A prosperous road, by the mid-19th century, the National Road was unquestionably Indiana's main street. Early settlements along the highway that grew fast and rich, catering to travelers, evolved to serve the needs of prosperous residents and businesses. Over time, rail service, streetcars, and automobiles would spur new enterprises and industries along the road and foster the development of leafy suburban enclaves and planned communities like Irvington. Today, commerce, development, and growth continue to be linked to the National Road. And here's a classic old building. This is actually part of the mall, but apparently this part is closed off because it's telling people to use the mall entrance at the corner of Washington and Illinois streets. But here's a historical marker right above that clock fixture. See what it says here. So this building is called the L.S. Ayres and Company Department Store Building. Constructed in 1905, the Ayres Building was the first modern fireproof department store in the city. Located at 1 West Washington Street and designed by the local architectural firm of Vonnegut and Bone, the store was enlarged in 1914, 1928, and 1946. Founder Lyman S. Ayres, who lived from 1824 to 1896, had been a leading dry goods retailer in the state since opening his first store on Washington Street in 1872. A family-owned business for 3 generations, the department store found many of the great traditions of downtown Indianapolis, such as the Ayres Tea Room, Santa Land, the Ayres Clock, and the Christmas Cherub. L.S. Ayres and Company vacated its historic headquarters in 1992. The building was rehabilitated and integrated into Circle Center. All right, so let me see if I can get a good view of that Ayres Clock. Apparently it was recently restored with a little help from National Road Association. Let's get a better view. Oh yeah, not really the best angle, but yeah, definitely cool. And I don't know, it's 7:05. Okay, it is 7:05 according to my phone. And that right there is the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. I hope to do a separate episode on that sometime down the road. And that right there definitely has to be one of the state of Indiana's tallest buildings, but I don't know that for sure. It's got Salesforce on top of it. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Historic National Road in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am Jason, downtown, sign off.